So this week we're watching Tag.
Oh, that comedy with Ed Helms and the famous app developer Jeremy Renner.
No, not that one.
The 80s comedy thriller with Linda Hamilton.
No, not that one.
The one where McLovin has AIDS.
No, not what?
I don't want to see an ordinary film. I want to see something extraordinary.
Your sacrifice completes my sanctuary of 1,000 testicles.
You ever feel as if your mind had started to erode?
Let's rock indeed. Welcome to 1000 Wives of Weird, a podcast that is a celebration of weird film. I'm Brad Hefner, and with me, as always, is
Billy Martell.
And this week, we are finally getting around to one of my favorite directors, Mr. Sion Sono, from Japan, USA.
From Japan, USA.
Everywhere is part of the USA.
Everywhere is part of the USA?
That's part of God's plan.
This is God's country. I heard that on the radio somewhere.
Yeah, only parts of it, though.
I think that Sion Sono is now... I've only seen this movie.
And 15 minutes of Why Don't You Play in Hell.
And 15 minutes of Why Don't You Play in Hell back when we were going to cover that for 1 week. I think he might be one of my favorite directors now, too.
Well, afterwards, we're going to watch Suicide Club, so you'll have a little bit more meat for that grinder.
I'd heard about that one before this, and before Why Don't You Play in Hell. I mean, we're going to get into it. This movie.
Yeah, and Sion Sono, I've heard him called Japan's David Lynch, which is not true at all.
No.
It's just that he makes weird film.
Yes.
And people don't have a lot of other touchstones for weird film.
He makes weird film, and I don't know, obviously this is the only movie that I've seen from him, and you have told me that if I were to show you a blind movie, just a blind film, and it was this Sion Sono film and that you hadn't seen before, you would be hard-pressed to name it as a Sion Sono film as opposed to the rest of his films.
Most likely.
Yeah.
He does...
But going off of this film alone, I will say that the film, within the runtime itself, names itself as being connected to the Surrealist movement.
Yes.
I would give it that. I would also add in that it seemed a little bit more closer to what the definition of absurdism would be for me.
Yes.
But either one, both are definitely stuff that David Lynch has played with in the past.
Yes.
And there were elements of this movie that felt Lynchian.
Sure.
I would argue that there were far more elements of the film that felt like Harold Pinter or Hausu for me personally than that. But I guess we should probably tell them what the hell we're talking about.
The film is Tag, a 2015 movie directed by Sion Sono, as I mentioned.
Yes.
And usually we like to give a summary of the film so you can decide if it sounds like your bag of tricks before going in, so you can go and watch it.
And as we kind of alluded to in the opening, this is a continuation of our No Not That One month.
Yes.
Our theme month for this month, in which we're tricking you into clicking into our podcast. And so, no, if you really wanted us to talk about that time Hannibal Buress said that time is a construct, you'll have to listen to our other podcast, the Hannibal Buress Movie Podcast.
The Hannibal Buress Time is a Construct podcast.
Yeah, where we just talk about that one line for hours.
And also tear down Hannibal Buress for being a landlord.
Is he really?
Yes.
Oh, that really makes me sad, because I really like his comedy.
Yeah, well.
Oh, damn it.
He's sort of a dick about it, too, from what I understand.
Well, of course, he's a landlord. You have to be. Yeah, you have to be. It's like being a cop. You have to be a dick about it.
Absolutely.
It's part of the job.
But our goal is to summarize the movie without spoiling it, and that is very hard with Tag.
I think I wrote a note at some point in my notes where I was like, say, Brad, what's the plot description? And then just stare at him until to see what the fuck he comes up with. This is describing the plot of this movie is like describing the plot of Eraserhead. He's like
sort of
so difficult.
I can succinctly sum up Eraserhead without spoiling too much. Tag,
can?
Yeah,
okay.
It's
guy has a bad hair day. Craziness ensues.
Yeah, basically. A surrealist nightmare where a man has a child that is born severely premature and things go from there.
Right. Okay.
With Tag, It's sort of an action horror film with sci-fi elements. Japanese, obviously, so it's subtitled. I guess I would say it's about a woman who is constantly being attacked.
Yes.
And trying to escape from those scenarios.
Yes, she's finding herself in a constant state of distress and violence.
Yes. Emphasis on violence. There's some gore. There's a lot of bloodshed.
Yes. I did want to write... Well, actually, I guess we'll wait until we get to the plot problem with that. So cut me starting to say that out, whoever's editing this.
But the other thing we like to do, so you can figure out if you want to watch this movie, is give our recommendation.
Yes.
Billy, would you recommend Tag by Sion Sono?
I would recommend this movie harder than I would recommend almost like anything. Like I think I enjoyed this movie the most of any movie we've watched for the show since since what the hell is the name of the movie? The Day of the Beast. Like,
okay.
I
Which isn't all that long ago, but
isn't all that long ago. But I was like, when I first finished watching the movie, first finished watching the movie, I was like, man, I think this might be like my favorite movie we've ever done for the show. And then just today I was like, you really liked Day of the Beast. I was like, okay, brain, you got me there. So I amended what the statement I was going to say to that. But comparing this to absurdism, it feels more absurdist than surrealist for me. But at the same time, the fact that there is a explanation, even though it's just kind of a nominal explanation at the end of the film for why weird stuff is happening, it's a very sort of like, we'll just have this kind of explanation. It's more for theme than it is for logical sense. But that does kind of take it out of the realm of absurdism and push it more towards surrealism. But at the same time, regardless, I wrote down if Pinter's The Wasteland and Hausu had an Eraserhead baby. This is the movie it is, where it's sort of like, hey, surrealism and absurdism are awesome, and Billy Martell completely agree. I love both of those things. But you know what would be what would be fun is if instead of just a bunch of old white people sitting around talking for a long period of time, instead, every once in a while, someone got eviscerated. Violently in front of you. And there were, like, incredible horror / action / sci-fi sequences that were just tremendously great, but they didn't at all distract from the artistic meat of the film at all.
This is...
I love this movie so goddamn much.
I also recommend this movie.
Yes.
I love Sion Sono. This is, I think his masterpiece, and I've not seen it in a very long, long time, is Noriko's Dinner Table. And then probably Why Don't You Play in Hell? And then this are probably my top ones. Suicide, I just love the man. Like, it's hard to even rank them. But
I looked him up because I wanted to find out, and much like Confessions of a Trick Baby, I'm sorry, you're legally required to say the whole title. Freeway 2, Confessions of a Trick Baby. I'm sorry. Take me away, art police.
Judge John Landis, get in here.
Damn it.
He's coming in a helicopter.
Oh, no! Just like with that movie, I could find almost no behind-the-scenes information about this film.
Yeah, it's difficult. That's another... the language barrier, I'm sure there's much more written in Japanese about it.
Maybe. But I did find a lot of stuff about Sion Sono and just like his whole vibe. And people call him like the rascal of the Japanese cinema scene. Like a lot of like sort of diminutive, sort of like patting on the head kind of terms that they make for him. And I'm watching, and again, this is the only movie from him I've seen.
Yeah.
If this is any indication of the kind of work he does, fuck, you guys don't know what you have.
Well, let me prepare you, because like I said, they're all so different.
Yeah.
You're not going to find another one that's just like Tag.
That's fine.
Suicide Club,
I don't want another one that's just like Tag.
Suicide Club sort of horror and surrealism is probably going to get you close.
He said in one of the interviews I said that I watched, where he said Suicide Squad felt to him like...
Club.
What did I say?
Squad.
That makes sense. Suicide Club.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense.
Suicide Club to him felt like, I'm trying to make my mark on the film world, and the easiest way I can do that is by offending people.
Yeah, there's some shocking stuff.
But that, like, his later movies, he had sort of more delved into, like, what can I say?
Yeah.
As opposed to just, like, let's fuck with people's ideas of good taste.
If you want to see Sion Sono, you keep saying it's Sion. Is that how they say it in interviews?
I'm making it up because I don't know how to say it.
I'm going to say Sion. You can say Sion.
All right.
But if you want, like, what I feel is probably his big message movie, check out Anti-Porno, which I don't think I know enough about Japanese culture and society to fully understand. I just know it's wild as shit. That's probably his most artsy-fartsy movie.
Great. I love it.
But yeah, I absolutely recommend Tag.
He also said about some critics who don't like him. He said they're not film critics. They are old people who drink together. And art should confuse old people. If art isn't confusing old people, there's no point.
That's brilliant.
And I'm like, holy fucking shit,
brilliant.
You're my favorite. You're my favorite forever.
No, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So, let's get into it.
Let's do it. Let's just get... Okay, right off the bat, I want to give a bit of a...
Trigger warning?
Trigger warning. If you are someone who struggles with suicidal thoughts, like a lot of absurdist / surrealist works, like Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, this has some very fatalistic and dark themes and does involve discussions of taking one's own life.
Yes.
And so I just want to add that as like a trigger. We're going to have fun this episode, but I want to put that right at the top. That's a trigger warning. If this is something that you struggle with, this might be a difficult episode for you.
There's also a lot of other dark shit in there.
Yeah.
But this is based on a novel called Ryaru Onigoko.
I'm going to make the biggest air quotes in the world about based on.
Yeah.
Did you do any research on what this novel
I
is?
did not have a lot of time.
So I looked into it a little bit. Plot of the book has nothing to do with this movie.
Really?
At all. There are we are in the spoiler section now,
Yeah.
so this is your last warning to click off. But the two things that are contained in this movie that are contained in the book: alternate realities,
Gotcha.
and being chased.
Gotcha.
The book is about a guy who, from our world, who falls through into another dimension and lands in a world where Japan still has an emperor, and the emperor has decided he's tired of other people having his own surname. So he has a very common surname in Japan, apparently. And he makes a law that everyone with his surname, other than himself, are now sentenced to death, and he's going to send out an army of yokai to kill them in this
Wonderful.
massive sort of Running Man style game.
That sounds interesting.
And it was made into another movie in 2008 that was much more
Called
closely...
Yokai Chase.
Sure, that was much closer to the book, and the book's title does translate to something like Tag.
Gotcha.
But other than the title, the idea of alternate realities and the idea of being chased by monsters, nothing... it's almost a joke to put at the end in the credits that this was based on a book at all. Which, honestly, again, knowing what little I know about Sion...
I'm saying Sion. That's how I've always said
Sion Sono. Knowing what little I now know about Sion Sono makes sense.
it. Yeah.
Because, again, this movie is so of itself that I was like... The minute I saw that it was based on a book, I was like, I need to know everything about that book right now, because there's no way that this is exactly the same in book form. What has changed?
Hold on.
Sion Sono.
Sion Sono?
Sion
Sion Sono.
Sono.
Oh my god.
Let me just check one more source.
Sion Sono.
Sion Sono.
Sion Sono. Sion Sono.
Well, that's confusing and horrifically unhelpful.
Oh man, that didn't help us at all.
No.
Sion Sono.
Okay, that one's saying Sion too.
Sion Sono.
So let's go with Sion Sono.
Sion Sono.
Sorry for the 15 minutes where we said the man's name incorrectly. This is another one of my favorite film openings. It's up there with Machine Girl.
Oh my god.
It's so fucking amazing.
I completely agree, and you didn't prepare me for it at all, so I
No,
got to experience it in real time, which was great.
Although immediately after I saw this, I posted this scene on Facebook. Mm-hmm. Clearly, you didn't watch it.
Clearly, I didn't watch it, so
But
it turns
all the
out
better for you.
Turns out, bad friend. But anyway,
I literally never watch anything you send me.
okay, so I'm just like acting out some sort of petty revenge.
Sure.
We'll say that. We'll say that.
We see 2 buses filled with high school girls driving a tree-lined road. They're all girls. They're going on a school trip, having fun, tossing around a pillow. Feathers are everywhere. There's going to be a lot of feathers in this movie.
A lot of feathers, a lot of pillow imagery.
Yeah.
And I setting up my expectations for what this film were at this point. The poster is 3 women with blood splatter all over it, and otherwise it's a very basic color. Brad has been both on the show and off showing me a lot of bad girl gang movie, violent movie sort of things.
2.
And talking about a lot of them
True.
as well. I include Confessions of a Trick Baby.
Sure, yeah, no,
and,
okay.
Yeah, in that, so more than 2. But when watching that sort of thing, and then the first thing, that poster, and then this movie opens with a bunch of Japanese schoolgirls. We just seen Machine Girl not too long ago, and I'm like, okay, this is the kind of movie I'm in for.
Gotcha.
And then continue.
You're right. There is a lot of pillow imagery, and I wonder if this movie will ultimately have its reasoning in sex.
There's a lot of sex in here, yeah.
And there's
well, not a lot of actual sex, but there's a lot of sexual conversation.
Yes. But, and I could be misremembering this, but I believe one of the not ancient, but sort of feudal Japanese love-making books was known as the Pillow Book, so I wonder if that was some sort of resonance.
That is ringing a bell in my memory, but I don't have enough background in that sort of idea to tell you if you're right. I will say, something that kind of impressed me right off the bat, I don't know why. Generally, in the West, at least, we're used to movies starting with 1 million titles before the film begins. After this movie gave the brief, like, production logo and Universal Studios as the American distributor, it just cut to a title card and the movie began. There was no, like, this is a Sion. This is a Sion Sono production brought to you by Universal. There was none of that shit. It was just right off the bat. Tag, movie starts. Mm-hmm. None of that shit. We're just starting right off the bat.
Meanwhile, one quiet girl writes poems in her journal. Mm-hmm. She drops her pen, and as she picks it up, the bus ahead of her is sliced in half horizontally. Mm-hmm. So we see 24 torso-less bodies.
Yes.
Then the same happens to her bus. Amazing, absolutely amazing fucking imagery. Like, you need... Go on YouTube, search tag opening, and if you have any stomach for gore, watch it. It's fucking brilliant.
This is one of the best things that's ever happened.
It's an immediate punch to the face. Like,
literally, it's just, again, just decapitated everyone in the bus.
Not just decapitated, like they're
sliced in half, like, at the torso.
Yeah.
And
it's not like everyone has geysers of blood coming up. Just some of them occasionally have like a little spurt.
Yeah. And again, the reason why I compare it to Houseu, if anyone's ever seen Houseu, this is a legendary Japanese horror movie. Not only is there like crazy horror elements, but there's also this, whenever there's not horror, there's this very sort of glossy, kind of nostalgic,
very dreamy
sort of like
almost a 70s sitcom, like that fakeness to it.
There's the Twin Peaks Something Sad Is Happening music playing in the background of almost every second that's not horror.
Yeah.
And that's very much the vibe that you have in this opening scene where all of these girls are just like, oh my god, isn't it great to be
young?
young?
So much fun.
We just have pillows all of a sudden. Let's have a pillow
Well,
fight,
they're going on a
gang.
trip. It makes sense that they have pillows.
And the girl is like writing in her notebook, but she's not just writing. She's writing poetry.
She's writing
and this
poetry.
isn't the first time. They're like,
Oh, you dumb poem, bitch. Keep
You're-
writing your dumb poems,
You're
you
writing
bitch.
poems again. They try and take the book from her, and they make her drop her pen. But they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry. They're still friends.
They are still
They're
friends.
still friends." And she goes down.
Well, they're
she-
not anymore because they're all dead.
She picks up the pen, and the pen has a little feather on it, and she stops to enjoy the beauty, the simple beauty. Have you ever felt like a plastic bag? Like, just the beauty of this feather. And while she's doing that, everyone she knows in her life is chopped in half.
Fucking...
She
and
stands
she just
up.
stands up, and the bus is still, like, rolling to a stop.
Rolling to a stop, and the blood
just-
from everything just kind of splatters all over
And it's
her.
just such this remarkable image of just this lone girl standing in all this carnage.
This movie, if nothing else, this movie has mastered the art of the rug pull.
Yeah.
Better than most movies that have ever existed.
Yeah,
Like,
this movie keeps you spinning around like it's
yeah.
It's like
spins
you're on
you
a
right
you're-
round, baby, right round.
exactly like God, I can't think of anything that spins.
I can't either.
Our lady, our main gal here, seems to be being targeted by an especially malicious gust of wind,
Right.
which is slicing through everything.
They say that it's wind later on. When I first looked at it, I had no idea what it was supposed to be, but I kept thinking of the monster in the Evil Dead movies that's never identified, but it's just like the camera.
There's
chasing
some
Bruce
Evil
Campbell
Dead
around.
cam work in this movie. Like,
Definitely,
there's some-
especially in this opening scene.
Yeah. This is a kamitachi, a Japanese yokai that rides on the wind and slices through things with a sickle.
Okay.
Of course, it just looks like a gust of wind.
So the intended audience for this movie would have a better idea of what this was supposed
Yeah.
to be than we would have.
Yeah, in America, this movie would probably be called Spooky Wind. Our heroine
Or The Happening.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Our heroine runs, being pursued by the wind. She comes across some other people who are just fucking cut in half. Like,
Just-
it's just...
yeah.
It's...
She pushes one of them to the ground to save them temporarily, but as soon as that woman's friends get cut in half, she gets up and is like, "No!" And then she's cut in half as well.
Yeah. It's... I wanted her at one point to just be like, why does this keep happening? Now, I just want to... This is 2015, and it's, I assume, kind of a cheapy Japanese movie. Like, I can't imagine there was a huge budget. The CGI does not look stupendous,
Yeah.
but it doesn't matter. Like, it does its job.
It doesn't look awful either.
I like
I've-
the way the effects
I've
look.
seen far worse, both in
absolutely.
American movies and in Japanese movies. But yeah.
She runs through the woods. The camera's doing some Evil Dead shit.
As she starts to run through the woods, the season abruptly changes. She's... At first, when they're driving the bus down, it seems to be like a sort of a general summer thing.
Yeah.
As she's running down the road, it transitions into winter temporarily, and then out of winter again by the time she reaches a little river.
I did not notice that.
Yeah,
That's-
I remember because I looked down to write a note, looked up, and suddenly everything was covered in snow. Looked down to write another note about suddenly it's winter, what the fuck. Looked up and the snow was gone.
Are you sure you didn't hallucinate this? Are you sure you don't
It's-
have winter madness?
I suppose it's possible. It's possible.
We get another amazing image. She comes upon a river filled with dead bodies.
Yes. I will say, throughout most of this movie, because I had no idea what was going to happen from second to second until the end of the film, but I kept having ideas of like what the movie might be. And my first idea was when she runs up to that lady with the two other friends and puts both hands on her shoulders and is like...
Oh, you thought it was going to be like, tag, you're it, now the wind's after you.
And then the main character was going to, up until that point, was going to die.
Yeah.
And the film was going to follow this person, who was then going to meet another character. She was going to die. That person was going to be chased.
Gotcha.
And that's not what would happen, but I kind of like the idea.
It's a cool idea for a film.
Yeah.
She comes upon a river filled with dead bodies. She changes out of her blood-soaked uniform into a different type of school uniform. In a daze, she makes her way to the school.
Well, she just sort of starts walking back towards society and then, finds herself walking towards the school surrounded by other kids in a similar uniforms. It's not so much that she sets out for the school.
No.
So much as she just kind of like, well, I have to go somewhere. And she's just sort of wandering through the forest crying. And then suddenly she's kind of on the road to a school and there's a whole bunch of other kids around her.
Okay, Billy, I want to give you a challenge.
Oh, well, first, before that, I also want to say, throughout the whole bit where she's on the road being chased by the wind monster, the music does not let up. There's no like, little Hitchcockian, like, lack of music for tension. It's just, like, blaring dramatic music. When she reaches the river and starts cleaning herself up, the music suddenly cuts out and is replaced by very soft, gentle music. The music is in this movie is very centric to the mood of the main character.
Yes.
It's centered on her emotional state and bringing the audience into that, which I love.
Both the music and the intensity of the movie waxes and wanes very expertly. You get a lot of intensity, and then it gets quiet for a bit. Still interesting, still engaging, and then it'll explode again, and then it'll back off a little bit. It does that less and less as it progresses, but... Okay, so our heroine in this movie is going to face a lot of different challenges.
Yes, a lot of different challenges.
So I wanted to pose you some challenges.
Okay.
So I'm going to give you a scenario.
Okay.
You're on a road trip with your family.
Okay.
Where are you going? Where do you want to go?
Oh man, we're going to Disney World.
Okay, you're going to Disney World.
Yeah, we're driving down to Florida.
Okay, so you're on the highway, and all of a sudden the car is surrounded by motorcycle bears. I'm talking a diverse group of bears.
Okay.
I'm talking polar. I'm talking cinnamon.
Oh, God.
I'm talking black. I'm talking brown. I'm talking grizzly. I'm talking Kodiak.
Oh, wow.
Hell's Bears, they're called.
Hell's Bears.
And they're surrounding your car, and they got claws out. What's your immediate reaction?
So we're in my family minivan.
Yes.
And we're surrounded by motorcycle bears. They get their claws out, and they're looking at us with sort of like an intention of violence.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. My reaction. Generally, I'm kind of in the back seat when I'm taking a trip with my family. I'm usually in pretty far in the back. So I think my reaction would be to start yelling at my dad to, like, because the bears, they're bears. They're big animals, and they're on motorcycles.
And the motorcycles are tiny. I should point that out. They're very tiny.
Well, even
they move very fast, but it's almost comical if they weren't like dressed in their leathers, about to kill you.
So I think that I would yell at my dad, like, "Dad, swerve the car. You got the bears are top heavy. You gotta knock them over.
Yeah,
you gotta knock them over so we can survive and get to Disney World.
Okay,
because I want to go on the Haunted Mansion ride.
Okay,
yeah."
So your dad hears your plea, and he turns around and says, "What?" And then a bear just wipes his head off.
Oh my God!
Now the car is out of control because your dumb headless dad has pedaled down.
Oh God!
He takes out the polar bear who's in front. Like that. He goes flying. Although that actually stops the car and does severe damage because you don't just hit a bear. Just keep rolling.
Especially not a top heavy bear. It's going to crash into the car just like a moose would.
You know what? The polar bears are dying. There's a lot of emaciated polar bears. This is one of those. This is one of those frail, sickly ones. You just crush that dumb bitch.
Oh man,
that stupid, endangered fucker.
It's just like a big old bag of bones, just shattered on the highway.
Yep. Call Stephen King because it's a bag of bones. So now but the car the car is just zooming down the highway.
Oh God!
What do you do? What do do?
Okay, again, I'm in the back seat, and there's like siblings in front of me, and my mom in the front. So I need to somehow get control of the vehicle. So I think I have to start climbing over my siblings because yelling at people didn't work the first time, and I can't risk.
It rarely does.
I can't risk them fucking up the plan, so I gotta start climbing over them bodily to get to the front of the car.
How many rows of siblings are you going over? 16? Sounds like this is quite a production.
There's at least one row of siblings between me and the front of the car.
Why are you so far in back? You're the eldest.
I just for whatever reason I always sat in the very back when I was a kid, so I just kind of kept doing that as an adult.
You always felt close to Rosa Parks, so you were.
Yes, in solidarity.
Yeah,
in solidarity with my girl Rosa, I was sitting all the way in the back.
So you get up to the front seat, and we're going to stop it there for now.
Okay.
Remember where we are.
I will. Actually, I didn't take my Adderall today, so I might not.
Okay, well, we'll just do a different one if we have to.
That's fine.
And the school that she goes to is one where everyone is wearing the same school uniform that she changed into.
Well.
And people call her Mitsuko.
Right. They call her Mitsuko, which she seems
She's confused.
by a lot of things that people are telling him. Like, she doesn't even identify this immediately as her school that she goes
Yeah,
to.
because she was in a different school uniform. This is, by all accounts, this is not her school.
This is a different school. But there's this girl named
Aki.
Aki, who comes up to her and identifies her as her best friend, and that they've been going to the school their entire lives. And Mitsuko, I guess, just sort of accepts this.
There's no other answer. Like,
Right.
she has no other answer.
And she does see that some of the other girls that were on the bus are also attending the school.
Oh, okay.
And they are now alive. I remember because the girl in the seat across the bus from her who caused her to drop her pen, I enjoyed her performance so much for that couple of seconds. I made
Yeah.
a special note. Oh no, girl on the other side of the bus is dead. We're never going to see her again. And then she shows up in this crowd scene.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh, thank God. We get more of Girl Across the Bus.
Oh.
I said, holy shit, Bus Girl is back.
That's my favorite thriller novel, Girl Across the Bus.
Girl Across the Bus. Yeah. They got Emily Blunt to be in that one. I
Yeah.
think. Yeah.
Shut up.
But-
Two other girls join them, Taiko and Sir, and a sudden gust of wind blows their skirts up, freaking out Mitsuko.
Yes.
I want to say something right now.
Yep.
As I said, this film is ultimately going to be rooted in sex. We see a lot of upskirts in this film.
Quite a lot.
There will be a reason for that.
There is a reason. The biggest, most consistent, I should say, criticism of
Sion Sono.
Sion Sono, most consistent criticism I saw of Sion Sono online when I was doing research, is that people can't figure out if he is feminist or sexist. And apparently the answer is a little bit of, from his own mind, is a little bit of both. Where he has said that he is not overly happy with his own depiction of women in his own work on a number of occasions. But it appears that, like, a lot of works in the back half of his career have been kind of centered on that idea, and him trying to sort of like wrestle with that concept.
Yeah.
And depictions of women in media in general.
And I think that's what a lot of anti-porno is.
Sure. I imagine just from the title, anti-porno, and I watched some like think pieces on YouTube talking about this idea, and this movie definitely plays with that concept as well.
Yes.
Going forward, without giving too many spoilers in our spoiler section.
They head towards the school when another gust causes Mitsuko to just break out and run.
Yes.
And Aki comforts her. Aki, MVP of the movie, gonna say it right now.
Absolutely. I will say, the acting in this movie is next level.
It's great.
Like,
It's fantastic.
Especially Aki, but like there are a lot of side character girls that exist throughout the movie who
Big
are
ups
giving,
to Sir.
oh my god, just giving absolutely fantastic performances. Aki, though, there is something absolutely magnetic about the actress who plays Aki.
Absolutely.
She is so full of personality and so good at playing her role. She's absolutely fucking phenomenal.
Yuki Sakurai.
Yuki
plays
Sakurai?
Aki.
Well, Yuki Sakurai, if you're speaking English and listening to this episode,
I hope she is. I love you. I would like to marry you.
you're amazing. You're fucking amazing.
No, Aki is best girl in this movie. Mm-hmm. Inside, two teachers inquire about Mitsuko's well-being before heading off. Mitsuko asks Aki if she's always been at this school. Mitsuko says she has a dream where the wind killed a bunch of girls on a bus. She's breaking down, crying, basically recounting the last 15 minutes.
Right. Very traumatic 15 minutes that she just had.
To prove her wrong, Aki throws open the window and puts Mitsuko's arm outside to show her there's no danger. By the way, Aki tells Mitsuko she loves her a bunch, and
There's even,
they
like,
joke about like being lesbians, like other girls joke about it.
So, are you in love? And Aki says, yes, of course, we've been in love for years. And it is this prompted my favorite Letterboxd review of this film.
Yeah.
Which was, running with your friend is a gay activity. But yes, I absolutely fully ship Mitsuko and Aki.
Yeah,
like 100%.
I think Aki should be with me personally. That's where I am with most ships. Like I'm like,
Right, yeah.
no,
Why
that
can't
character
they-
that character should be dating me.
Why can't they be with me?
Who should Veronica Mars be with, Logan or Duncan? Me.
Team Jacob, Team Edward, Team me.
Write me in there, coach.
I weirdly dig that attitude. Like there's something very sort of like I'm going to advocate for myself in this situation.
I'm the
Why
only
am
one-
I not an option here?
I'm the only one good enough.
I just because this made me laugh. I wrote down a note. I have no idea where this movie is going. I feel like I keep being tricked. This movie is the real trick baby.
No, you're the trick baby for getting tricked.
Ah, there it is. There it is. Also, you start to notice at this point, or at least I started to notice, that the movie is incredibly woman-centric.
It is only females.
It is only women
until the very end.
until the very end. But, like,
It doesn't.
you start to notice it right here because there are plenty of roles throughout the story that would traditionally be male. And in this school, not only is it an all-girl school, the teachers are all women.
Yes.
Every figure of authority that we see is all women. And that, I slowly realized that over the course of the film,
Same.
and I fucking love it.
Oh, I love it.
I love it so
And again,
much.
there's going to be a reason.
Right, there is also a reason for it, but even if there had been no reason, I would have loved
It's
it
a great touch
by itself. I
didn't really notice it until
I have kind of
later, after the segment we're about to get into.
I have kind of come around to a point in my life where I am very tired about stories about people who look like me.
Yeah.
And I've kind of come to a point where I'm like, just anybody but me. I'm bored.
Yeah.
Show me something else.
Aki suggests they skip class and take a walk.
Mm-hmm.
Mitsuko has no clue where their homeroom is, compounding the mystery of Mitsuko being there.
Mm-hmm.
They stop by homeroom where Aki introduces Mitsuko to some students and
Yes.
says that Mitsuko has been reborn.
Yes.
They
She also jokes that she might have amnesia, which I thought was funny because, and this will be a continuous thing throughout the movie, people will joke about Mitsuko having amnesia.
Yeah.
I'm like, if I thought a friend of mine had amnesia, I would be very upset. But these characters just kind of let that roll off their back.
Okay, let's role play. Let's say I have amnesia.
Okay.
What would you do?
I would be very concerned and I would take you to a hospital.
Okay. What's a hospital?
That's not how amnesia works.
How do you know? I'm the one who has it. Or do I? I can't remember.
A hospital is a place where they're going to look at you and find out what's going on, if you have amnesia or not.
What's amnesia?
It's something people have that makes them have to go to hospitals, and you
What's
might have
hospitals?
it. Jesus Christ.
You're bad at this.
Apparently I'm bad. Okay, maybe Aki has the right temperament for amnesia, and I'm just an asshole.
They and two others, Sir and Taiko, head to the lake near the school to ditch class. This movie moves along at a great clip. Like
It really does.
I'm never bored during it.
No.
I'm never. Here's where I know we're getting a lot of upskirts, but I feel the end justifies that choice.
I
Like
do
there's
think
a
so.
reason. I mean, it is also titillation, but I don't know. Upskirts don't really do that much for me. Like I know that women wear underwear, so it's not like.
Right, I know it's a much bigger thing in Japanese culture, in Japanese erotica, especially. Like the panty shot is like famous in anime.
And Sion Sono has a 4-hour epic, which is actually even longer in other cuts, called Love Exposure, that has a plot about upskirt photography.
Well, there you go. Yeah, but it's a much bigger thing in Japanese culture in terms of their kind of erotica. Regardless, it is a sexualization thing, and there is a purpose for it, even though. And also, I would argue just that the characters are so strong and so likable.
Yeah.
This whole bit is setting up Mitsuko's circle of friends as just like the most pure
Yeah.
and adorable. They meet their new friend Shure in the class when she's introducing all these characters, and Shure raises up her middle fingers.
Loves them birds.
And Aki raises up the middle finger back, and Sure just has this cutest little like sort of little smirk about it. We're like, "Aw, that's our love language, is telling each other to go fuck off."
Sir is sort of like the goth of the group, the punk of the group.
Yes,
At
they call her Sure because she's so surreal.
At the lake, Aki tells Mitsuko that there's nobody more important than her.
Yes.
Aki recounts Mitsuko's dream, and Sir says that it's possible that Mitsuko was in an alternate reality. There's an infinite amount of them. Sir throws a rock and says in one universe she didn't throw the rock. But the ripples that the rock creates in the lake can expand to affect everybody.
Yes.
Very basic multiverse shit. But still fun. Suddenly, a giant crocagator pops out of the water and chomps the fuck down on Tycho.
I do not have confirmation of this, but I believe in my heart that I heard this correctly. As the crocagator comes out of the water and is chomping on the girl, I do believe I heard the Pac-Man sound effect.
I cannot confirm or deny. Either way, this is fucking insane.
Fucking
and it's
insane,
great.
yes.
And it turns out to just be a fantasy sequence.
Yes. But there's an element, because that first scene was such a rug pull.
Yeah.
And then you get to this bit where they're all being so sweet to each other and they're all being so cute, but they're also off by themselves, skipping class. They're off by the side of a lake where we know that other people have been recently, but we don't know where those people are. You know that this movie is going to pull the rug out from under you again at some point. You just don't know when or where. So when the crocagator comes out, it's like, oh, there it is.
Yeah, this all makes sense.
And
this
the filmmakers are like, no.
That's just
you're still safe.
That's just an example of what might happen in an alternate reality. The girls toss around a pillow that's there for some reason.
Well, they say, oh, the two people must have been sleeping here earlier. And then they pick up the pillows and they start tossing them.
Feathers once again filling the air. Sir pontificates about destiny, picking up a feather, dropping it, saying that the time it takes for the feather to fall and the place it does fall is already decided. But you can trick fate by doing something unexpected that you would never do.
She says that there are two ideas about reality, that things are entirely random or that they are all predestined. And the only way to be sure that the predestination thing is not correct is to, again, do something so completely random, so completely out of character for yourself that it tricks fate.
What's something random that's completely out of character for you that you would do to trick fate?
Something that I would do to trick fate for myself. The problem is the only ways that are usually within our power to trick fate are things that would have negative consequences for us to do them. Like, for instance, Shore's way of trying to break with fate is to jump into the lake. Now, if she were to do that, she would be tricking fate. She wouldn't be doing what was expected of her.
Yeah.
But she would be getting cold, she'd be getting wet, and she would be getting in trouble with her parents, with the teachers. I think a way that I would trick fate is probably... the first thing that came into my mind when you asked me that question is I would break these windows behind us. But then that would let the cold into my house. My cats would escape and would get lost.
True.
My wife would be extremely mad at me.
Yeah.
So I think a safer way for me to break with fate and trick the universe would just be to do what they did. They cut class. I would skip out of school and run away to Canada.
Fun.
Yeah.
I would love myself. That's something unexpected that I would never do.
Aw.
The girls run back to school.
Oh, sir, before they go back to school, Sure says, stay strong. Life is surreal. Don't let it consume you.
Yeah. The girls run back to school. In class with one of the teachers we saw before, Mitsuko sees a pillow on the floor. She picks it up and throws it to Aki. When suddenly, rapid gunfire begins ripping apart students. We see the teacher with a fucking minigun.
Holy fucking shit.
Mitsuko is grabbed by Taiko and Sir, and they run. This is so sudden and so fucking out of nowhere.
And again, the movie has fucked with you up until... I knew that this was happening.
Yes.
Because the minute that she looks down and sees the pillow on the ground, it's almost the same shot composition as when she looked down and saw her pen on the ground.
Yeah.
And then she leans down and picks it up. The movie is been playing with you.
It's giving you visual themes. It's giving you...
The crocagator come up and is like, no, it's not that yet. She almost falls into the water. No, it's not that yet. We get to this bit. She picks up the thing, and you're like, oh my god, it's the exact same thing is happening. No, it's not that yet. She throws it to Aki. You still expect the wind to come, and then suddenly it's a machine gun instead.
Yeah.
And it's from this teacher who has been portrayed as exactly as glowing, nostalgic, saccharine, sweet turns
we don't get
as
a
much
lot
as
of
everybody else.
We don't get a lot of time with her, but she seems nice enough.
She seems great. But now, and even then, it is... And we get payoff of what Shore said earlier, is that you can cause a glitch in the Matrix essentially by deciding to do something strange and unusual. They cut class, and this has caused their teacher to spiral into a psychotic rage
because she does shout, "Why did you cut class?"
and
to
manifest
Mitsuko.
a fucking minigun out of nowhere and kill everyone.
And these are some brutal kills. Like this is
Yes.
This is all again. This is where the CGI doesn't really serve super well. It's all CGI blood, but it's still
I had no problem with
fucking brutal as shit. They encounter another student who is shot by the other teacher we saw at the beginning. The shots propel her body through a window. We get a shot from outside the window, and we see her body fucking thump on the ground.
Yes.
No reason for that.
No reason.
It would be so much easier and cheaper to have her go through the window, and we just hear the sound effect.
Yeah.
But Sion Sono was just like, not brutal enough. Make it more gnarly. He shouts at his script that he wrote.
He's got that Paul Verhoeven sort of like instinct for what is a truly beautiful, brutal moment of gore.
Yeah. And this is something that you could never make in America.
No,
like
fuck
this
no.
is never going to happen here.
Yeah.
I mean, not in a film. In real life, teachers have miniguns all the time.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Every teacher is Vulcan Raven from Metal Gear Solid,
No,
including our friend Spring.
Okay. there's a lot. Yeah.
Another
guns in schools never happens here.
Another girl, might be Tycho, runs out in front of the teacher and gets her fucking hand blown off by an assault. The teacher is dual wielding like an M16 in one hand, combat shotgun in the other.
There are two teachers we've been introduced to. One has a minigun, the other one has the dual wielding machine guns.
She blows away her hand and then takes a good chunk out of her head with a shotty.
Yes.
Sir and Mitsuko run out of the room, only for Sir to get shot after telling Mitsuko that life is once again surreal.
Mm-hmm. So life is surreal. You have to be that. Don't let it consume you.
And now just the chaos just fucking expanding and increasing. Mitsuko runs along with a herd of other students.
Yes.
The school address system is playing what I think is Anchors Away. Anchors away, my boys.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Anchors
Yeah.
away.
But in Japanese.
Well, no, it's an instrumental.
Oh, sorry, I misremembered.
There are teachers out of every window.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we only see like 3 windows, 4 windows. We don't see it, but it gives us this idea of scale and scope.
Yes, they're making their budget go farther than it should.
The teachers are firing out at the fleeing students. One of them has a fucking grenade launcher that's just causing... It's such pure, beautiful chaos and carnage, the likes of which I've rarely seen.
At this point, the wind returns.
Yes. Well, yeah. One of the fleeing students asks Mitsuko to think about why this is happening. Mm-hmm. Suddenly, the 4 girls she was running with are sliced apart by the killer wind from earlier. Mm-hmm. Mitsuko flees. And I love this wind. I think it's a great monster.
Yes. Yeah, I would call it a monster. Yeah.
But it seems like you can defeat it just by crouching on the ground. I don't know why Mitsuko doesn't just like
you have to
army crawl.
Well, you have to crouch on the ground at the right time.
Oh, okay. It's like a Roadrunner thing. You gotta
anytime that she crouches down and the wind misses her, it's always in a moment when the wind wasn't expecting it to be that way. Like it couldn't see her crouching down when she was in the bus.
Yeah.
And she always like just gets out of the way just at the right moment.
How much better would life be?
Yeah.
If the wind had eyes. Like there were just strings of eyes blowing out through the
negative 100%.
You wouldn't like that?
I would hate that.
And sometimes it would like hit you in the face.
Right, yeah. No,
Go in your mouth.
I'm thinking about it, yeah. It's a bad time. Sounds like a bad time to me.
Birds just like eating them all the time. Just like
well, the birds
spiders
like
catching a ride on a...
The birds would like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I would be very upset by that.
Well,
all of that.
I have bad news. With climate change, it's more and more likely every day.
It's more and more likely we're going to get eyeballs in the wind.
Yeah.
That was the first draft of Dust in the Wind.
Eyeballs in the wind.
Eyeballs in the wind. All we are is eyeballs in the wind.
All right. Mitsuko runs through town, which first seems deserted, then seems... Here's where I first noticed that, like, oh, we're only seeing women.
Yes.
It's only women on the street. She runs into a police depot where the policewoman recognizes her not as Mitsuko, but as Keiko.
Keiko. And yeah, this is another situation where normally in like a Western film, and even in a lot of Japanese
Bang, bang,
films,
cowboys.
you would go up to a cop, an authority figure, and it would be a masculine part.
Yeah.
But even this cop that they meet on the corner is a lady cop.
Yeah.
Every character in this movie is a woman.
The policewoman asks why she's in a school uniform and turns a mirror to Mitsuko. When Mitsuko looks, she finds her appearance has changed and she is now played by a different actress.
Yes.
The policewoman
This is one of the most Lynchian aspects of the film.
Okay.
The aspect of shifting identity and multiple people being different people, being the same person or different people. That sort of thing.
Lynch doesn't have a monopoly on that, though.
No, but it is something that comes up in his work a lot.
True. The policewoman...
once we cross over, everything could be different.
Very true. The policewoman tells her that the reception is starting soon and shoves her into a car. I love this sequence. As they drive down the street, dozens of women pound on the windows and laugh. At their destination, she finds Aki. Yay!
I literally wrote down Aki with like 100 exclamation points behind it.
I'm looking at your phone. There's not 100 there. Why would you lie to our viewers?
Look. It's
I'd say
more
there's less than
entertaining.
10.
It's more entertaining if
man.
there's more.
I never lie on this show.
I lie all the time.
Yeah, your name's not really Billy.
No, it isn't.
It's Fart Knocker.
Which I see why secret.
Which I see why you. It's Fart Knocker Jones.
Fart Knocker Jones.
And I see why you use a stage name.
Yes, Fart Knocker Jones. And
It's
then
a family name. You come from a long line of Fart Knockers.
Once I started lying about that, the rest became easy.
You lie about your age. You're actually 58.
I am actually 58. Yes.
You lie about your job. You're actually an undercover agent for the cops.
Yes, absolutely.
And I just blew your cover.
Right. Yeah. Not the police, but the band, the cops.
Is that a band?
I think so.
Are you sure you're not thinking of the Police?
Maybe.
Sting's band?
Maybe.
Okay.
I don't know.
You tried. That'll probably get cut out. That wasn't a very funny run.
That's
and
all
we're
right.
going a bit long.
That's okay.
At their destiny, she finds Aki, and she learns that she's getting married. Keiko has a breakdown. Aki still calls her Mitsuko and tells her to do as she says.
Yes.
Aki says she's both Mitsuko and Keiko.
Yes.
Keiko gets into her wedding dress, and it was a little soft for a little while. We got people talked for about 3 minutes.
For about 3 minutes.
So
that was enough.
So now we got to get some carnage. Aki
Yes.
begins brutally attacking the other members of the wedding party. There's a fucking absolutely gnarly arm break.
Aki, we are now learned that the actress who plays Aki is not only an incredible actress, she is also an incredible action star.
Yeah.
Because she handles the physical stuff in this scene immaculately.
Yeah. She crushes a fucking head. She's snapping necks left and right like
my
she
God.
was born to do it.
Like she was born to it.
Oh, man.
And she's like walking Keiko through how to do it, where she's like, put your arm here, put your arm here.
Yeah.
All right, are you ready? Are you ready? And then they just fully flip a whole woman over her head and crashes through a table. It's amazing.
Yeah. Aki gives Keiko a broken bottle to fight with. She heads into the chapel. She holds the bottle like a bouquet, a little detail I loved.
Yes.
Sion Sono is not like... He doesn't make necessarily beautiful looking movies. He has some great imagery, but he has a very good eye. Like, he knows how to set up things.
Unquestionably.
Oh, at the altar is a coffin. And again, everyone in the chapel is a woman.
On both sides.
And again, I love this change. At first, the crowd is very congratulatory. Then they begin to turn on her.
As she's walking down the aisle, the crowd starts to turn on her. As the organist, there's an organist at the front of the chapel who is very sort of gothily dressed.
She's dressed like Death from Sandman.
Yes, exactly like that. And she's playing the organ in a very sort of traditional sort of da-dum the bride.
And as she walks, it becomes more discordant.
It becomes more discordant and wild and frenetic. And the women in the audience
start insulting her. Then they start laughing at her.
They start stripping and rending their own clothing.
They rip their own clothes off. Then they rip her clothes.
They start ripping her clothes. And I wrote down, it reminded me a lot of...
your wedding.
Right, yeah, of course. No, it reminded me a lot of Carnival of Souls.
Which I've never seen.
Right, but there is a sequence in that movie. It is about a woman who is being constantly pursued by a crowd of people. Like these people who seem to be corpses following her everywhere she goes.
Oh, I've seen that movie under the name Corpse Crowd.
Right, yeah, Corpse Crowd, exactly. And there's a sequence where she's in a... she's a church organist. And she's come to this church that she's now being hired by, and she starts playing the organ. And as she's playing this very sort of worshipful tune, it changes. She can't stop playing, and it turns into this very discordant, very sort of like atonal piece that a priest rips her away from the organ and says that she's channeling the devil.
Oh,
and this whole sequence reminded me of that movie so starkly. It was very interesting.
Once she gets to the altar, the coffin opens, and inside is a...
They say that this is the groom.
Yes, this is the groom. Inside is a tuxedoed man with a horrifying, ugly head of a pig that is also a bit bloody.
Her groom is a pig monster. Not exactly very subtle that she finds out her husband is a pig.
Yeah.
But I don't care. I love this.
I love it, too. And again, this isn't... I'm about to say it's not the best pig mask I've ever seen, but I love it, so maybe it is.
Best pig mask you've ever seen?
Oh, man. That Twilight Zone episode.
The Twilight Zone episode?
The
masks. Yeah. Okay, that is a pretty great pig mask. I'll give you that.
The crowd chants for Keiko to kiss it.
Kiss it.
Kiss it.
Yep.
Instead, she slits his throat.
Yes.
There's a nice blood spurt.
Between this, the fact that Aki keeps following her into her new lives and protecting her and telling her that she's the most important thing to her, and being essentially railroaded down this weird self-hatred spiral of an aisle to the pig that she's now being told to kiss, there could be an argument to say that this movie is about... coming out as a lesbian.
I think there might be something there.
Yeah.
Especially given Japan's odd relationship with homosexuality.
I know nothing about homosexual issues in Japan. I just know that Sailor Moon has a lot of commentary about it.
From what I've experienced, it seems to be sort of fetishized, and like, this is a great thing in media, but in real life, not as much, maybe.
In real life, find yourself a good husband.
But I'm not 100% sure.
Right, yeah.
Keiko turns on the crowd. Now it's her turn to kick a little ass.
Oh, yes.
Aki comes in, fucking Queen Aki.
Queen Aki.
I wish she came in on like a motorcycle.
Oh, man, that'd be great. But speaking of fetish leather, the teachers show up.
Oh, was this the teachers again?
Yeah, the teachers show up again, but this time they're
dressed for the fucking Matrix.
They're dressed as the Matrix.
Yeah.
As the Matrix itself.
And we get a nice fight here.
Yes.
Like, it's not like the Raid levels. It's not like, but it's a nice fight for, again, a movie
it's pretty great.
It's yeah.
Like, we talked a little bit about in Machine Girl how that movie was crazy and violent, but the martial arts was a bit slow. You don't have that problem here.
No,
like, the martial arts in this movie is pretty fucking great.
It's also the editing. The editing helps a lot.
That does help.
But yeah, it's just...
The note I wrote is, who says surrealist art movies can't have awesome fight scenes?
I wanted to bring this up in the first portion of the show, but I think that's why you love it, because this movie perfectly marries our mutual love of carnage and violence with our love of weird shit, good filmmaking, and actual artistry.
Right. You know, the film is an actual piece of art.
Yeah.
It's not just a dumb, like, crazy exploitation piece like Machine Girl was, but it's like, it is still fun.
Yeah.
And I wrote down, I don't think of this movie as a movie. To me, this movie is a piece of music.
Sure.
And I tried to find something of Sion Sono talking about something like this, and he does occasionally refer to his movies as pieces of music, but it's always in terms of a different kind of analogy, where he talks about, like, he says at one point, I feel like I should make 13 movies in a year, because there are usually about 13 songs on an album, and I feel like that's a good number of things. He's like, maybe a couple of them will be bad, but at least I'll have 13 movies out.
The Takashi Miike approach.
Sure. But looking at this movie, the way it moves, it feels kind of like the 1812 Overture for me.
Sure.
Where there'll be long periods of... and then suddenly, just like, bum, bum, you get like the real kick-ass sections that everyone remembers with the cannons coming in.
But again, like...
It just kind of flows and it goes, and it never feels like anything that's happening is out of place, is not of the world of the movie. It doesn't feel like you have ever changed to watching a different movie, despite the fact that the film itself is so
changing.
different,
like,
from
you're changing
second to
actresses,
second.
You're changing...
But those changes feel somehow so organic, and I feel like that's a very musical movement.
Yeah, no, it's expertly done, and I think it was a brilliant move, not just because it's a great opening image, but to shock you and surprise you so much right from the get-go.
Absolutely.
That puts you in a mindset where it's like, oh, there are no fucking rules.
Yeah, it really is a tone-setting moment. The other thing I compared it to was David Bowie's Black Star.
Okay.
Where the song goes on for like 11 minutes,
Yeah.
and for long periods of time, it will be one kind of song, and then it will completely change to a completely different song, and then back again, and you're just kind of... If you're there for it, you are there for that ride. And that's exactly what this movie felt like for me.
Here's a fun fact, and I might have told you this already.
Okay.
On the karaoke app Carafun, they offer Black Star by David Bowie, so you could go to karaoke and sing a 9-minute song that is just like sort of art rocky, I guess you would call it.
Wow, what a weird time for everyone in that karaoke bar.
Yeah, no, that would be...
That's just
I
a
don't
weird
think
time.
anyone would enjoy that. even if you were an amazing singer and you could do it, even if you could do it like, just like Bowie, no one's there for that. No one's there for you taking up 9 fucking minutes.
Just taking up so much space.
You could have done 3 songs in that time.
One last thing before we get back to talking about the story of this movie. This movie is available on Tubi. We've talked a lot about how much we love Tubi. The one thing that's kind of sucks about Tubi is just that there are commercials.
Yeah.
It's a free service. They have to make money somehow.
Here's the thing. They come on every 20 minutes, which is not that bad.
It's
I think
not that
some
bad.
services do every 10 minutes.
Yes, some services do that.
They do the breaks very well.
They do.
Like, they make sure a scene is ending. It doesn't interrupt. And
they always put up like a little counter that's like, hey,
warning.
Commercial's coming. The one kind of like detrimental thing about Tubi is that there are commercials. So there's a commercial break in this... When I was watching on Tubi, right after this wedding venue fight scene.
Yeah.
The commercial they just happened to immediately cut to was a commercial about a bride. Where, like, just about to go into the wedding, and coming right off of that scene with this bride, like, about to go in and see all of her family and everything, I was like, oh, this isn't going to go well for you. It was just, I wrote down... After this scene, Tubi literally cut to a commercial that took place at the wedding. Funniest, dumbest shit in the world.
But they win the fight against the Matrix teachers.
Yes.
They flee back through town. Aki stays behind to hold off the pursuers.
Right.
And this time it was like, fuck yeah, Queen Aki, Team Aki.
And I will point out something interesting about Aki. Aki's not in the opening.
No.
Aki only shows up the first time that our protagonist sort of shifts worlds, shifting from the one school she was in to this new one where some of her friends are still alive, but she also has new friends. Aki's there. Aki is also in the second world that she goes to,
Wedding World.
The Wedding World, yes.
That's my
And-
favorite Mario level, Wedding World.
Wedding World, yeah. And Aki, well, that's kind of we'll get into it, but Aki knows what's going on. So maybe Aki knew what was going on from the beginning and was saying to her when she said to her, "Just remember, I care about you more than anyone."
Yeah.
She was saying, "I'm here to watch over you no matter where you go next."
Gotcha.
I think that there might be something there. But anyway.
Keiko runs and runs until she meets someone dressed for a marathon who calls her Izumi.
Yes.
Keiko passes by a mirror that is conveniently being held by the guys in movies who conveniently hold mirrors.
You
Like
know.
sometimes a car has to drive through them, sometimes someone has to see the reflection.
You know those guys.
And suddenly she's portrayed once again by a different actress,
Different
and she
actress.
is now dressed to go running.
Yeah. Izumi.
The three women join her, and they run together. They come to a street lined with cheering women, and the race begins in earnest.
Yes.
The women tell her that they've been on the same track team. They've been friends since forever. Izumi pulls ahead. This is her big race.
For a big race. And I just wanted to point out that, like, as a person with ADHD who is constantly struggling with, like, trying to remember things,
Yeah.
this situation is both, like, an eerily prescient nightmare for me,
Yeah.
and also, like, a weirdly comforting moment. Because on the one hand, this sort of element of just kind of, like, going along and suddenly people are telling you things and talking to you about things that you do not remember.
Yeah.
And you don't even remember the person who's talking to you, but they seem to really know you, is something that I have experienced and is always very kind of a struggle for me. But at the same time, it would be kind of awesome to have a group of friends who just followed me around and filled me in on my own backstory at any
Yeah.
given moment. That would be very helpful for me.
Yeah, no, that would help me as well. Like, I have had a number of jobs, and those jobs tend to have high turnovers. Mm-hmm. So I've worked with a lot of people, and
Sure.
people will just come up to me like, "Hey, man, how you doing?" I'm like,
Oh my God, yes.
I'm like, okay, great. I'm great. How are you, man? Like, you take care.
Right. So the moment that we worked together was the most important moment in your life. For me, it was Tuesday.
Yeah. Izumi pulls ahead. She sees Sir and Taiko also running with her. Aki comes up from behind.
Aki and Sir are back at it again.
But also, the Matrix ladies are back. And so is Pig Groom.
Pig Groom, this is the best scene for Pig
This
Groom.
is, oh my God, this is Pig Groom's moment to shine. Like, this is where he's like, if I'm ever going to get a spin-off movie.
Oh my God, yes. No, this scene is the argument for the Pig Monster cinematic universe.
Yeah, not the Tag Cinematic Universe.
No!
Pig Groom Cinematic
Pig
Universe.
Groom cinematic universe. They know where the money's at.
So the Matrix ladies are running up. They're gaining on Izumi, and they're like giving some kicks out to the other runners.
Yes.
But Pig Groom is fucking bringing up behind, and he starts doing a bunch of flips.
He's
and-
doing these big, like, Gene Kelly jump kicks to all the people around him, just like, and they're all flying away like Looney Tunes characters. It's great.
And then he hits the gymnastics routine.
Oh
where
my
he's
God,
just
yeah, he's doing
flipping around.
doing flips and shit.
And kudos to this stunt actor.
Oh, yeah.
Whoever it is,
Yeah.
had to put on this, I'm sure, not light pig mask.
Probably not.
It's a full head. It's not a mask. It is a full head.
Yes.
It's not like just a face mask. It's a full head thing.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine it's not horribly heavy, but it's
It's
you
heavy
can't
enough.
fucking see probably.
Yeah.
But they're hitting this routine.
And there's probably some sort of uncomfortable, like, fastener in there
Oh,
to keep it
absolutely.
on his head while he's doing
Also
flips.
in a tuxedo.
Also in a tuxedo, not traditionally the most athletic of clothing. And I also wrote down here, there's something about surrealism and sort of the dreamlike quality of the works of, again, David Lynch and Harold Pinter and this, that really appeals to me on like a sort of deep psychological level that
Absolutely.
I haven't quite come to grips with, or I just sort of like, and maybe it is the ADHD quality where I'm just sort of like always living in whatever moment I'm currently at
Yeah.
and never quite being able to remember what happened before or prepare for what happened after. And that's kind of the place that this kind of media exists in.
Yeah.
That I just kind of like, I vibe with that world
Yeah.
a lot. And I just really enjoy shit like this and the way that this kind of moves.
No, it's a masterpiece of a movie. Like, it's so much like, and like, if you were, I'm sure Martin Scorsese would not call it a masterpiece,
Well, yeah. Well, whatever.
but like, for something to have,
Scorsese calls Frankenstein Created Woman a masterpiece. He can call this a masterpiece too.
but this again, it's artistic. It's so fucking fun.
Yeah.
It's a great time watching this movie, and you're also watching a damn fine film.
Yeah,
But
even if you don't buy into the artistry the way that I do and you do, like as you were saying to me earlier,
the creativity, if nothing else, the sheer uniqueness.
and even if you don't get into that, there's still the fucking violence.
Yeah.
which is
If you
fucking
can-
great violence.
It is.
There are plenty of people who do not understand RoboCop as the deep satire of capitalism and the entertainment industry that it actually is,
Yeah.
and think of it as just a dumb action movie. And while I do think that those people need to read a couple more treatises on RoboCop,
Yeah.
at the same time, like, you're right, the action in RoboCop is fucking great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Pig Room and Matrix Ladies are picking off other runners. Let's get back to your dilemma,
Oh, fuck yes.
where your father has been decapitated.
Very
Classic
sad.
Greek situation. And the car has run over the last polar bear in existence. But it's
Good
and,
riddance.
and you have climbed over your 100 siblings in this stretch limousine minivan. And what are you doing? Are you taking the wheel like Jesus?
Yeah, just like Jesus, I'm going to I'm going to swing myself into the front seat. I'm going to take that wheel.
Well,
and
your
I'm
father's
gonna,
body is still on the front seat.
Yeah, I'm going to sit on his lap. I'm going to take
Okay,
the wheel.
just like old times.
Just like old times. I'm going to adjust the seat back, pull the seat back so I have enough room to get my feet on those pedals.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to drive sitting on my dad's decapitated body.
Okay, are you just driving straight forward? Are you circling back to pick off the bears?
Where are the bears in relation to
They're
me right
gaining
now?
on you. They're gaining on you. They're going faster every second.
Gotcha. I think, I'm going to take control of the vehicle, make sure that we're not skidding and
Are you going to comfort your mother in her time of trauma? Are you going to say, Mama?
we don't have time for that.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna get control of the vehicle, and I'm gonna put that pedal to the metal and get away from those biker bears.
You can't beat them.
You can't beat them.
They come right up beside you again. And remember, there was a big swipe, so your side of the driver's side of the car has a big hole in it.
Gotcha.
So you're staring right into the eyes of that cinnamon bear.
Right. Okay, so I guess.
Oh, and these bears, racists. They're neo-Nazis.
I thought because they were such a multicultural union of bear types that
they believe
wouldn't
in
be
bear
racist.
supremacy.
Oh my god. Okay. Well, in that case, if they're so fast, they've got up to me. At that point, I'm going to take my foot off the gas. I'm going to ram the brake and stop so that they go farther than me. And I can maybe turn the car around and head the other way while they're still trying to figure out what's going on.
Okay. A bunch of them zoom past you. The one that was following behind you slams into the back of the stretch limousine minivan.
Right.
Because it's a bear and they aren't like aerodynamic.
Yeah.
Unlike geese.
Unlike geese.
It goes like a couple feet and then just smashes down on the back of the car.
Okay.
Probably killing some of your siblings.
Oh shit. Okay.
Probably Arturo.
No, not Arturo.
Jesselyn.
Jesselyn, no.
Smudgely.
Smudgely, yes. Smudgely, my favorite Smudgely.
Doris.
This is so sad for me.
Santiago.
Santiago, no. All right.
Knives McGinty.
Wow, this bear flew farther forward than I thought.
It's one of those bear dachshund mixes. So
it's a stretch bear.
It's a
The stretch bear fell on the stretch
Yeah,
minivan limo.
It's what Alanis Morissette would call ironic. So let's pause there.
As I'm making the 100-point turn I need to make in this
Yeah.
stretch minivan to turn around and drive away from the bears. Yes.
Izumi goes off course, jumping over a fence,
Mm-hmm.
and in a detail I love, even though she is off the course, there are still spectators. They are still on the sidelines.
Mm-hmm.
They are cheering for her.
Yes.
Izumi runs into a cave-like building, She is pulled further inside the cave by a schoolgirl.
Yes.
We see dozens of other schoolgirls with their hair over their faces.
Yes.
Some are bloody. Her guide asks her to please die.
Will you die, please?
If she's alive, they all die.
So we die because of you.
Everyone dies because of her. Have you ever felt that way?
No, I
Like
have not felt that way.
everything you touch just is murdered by God. Your touch is so cancerous. That just like anyone in your noxious presence
Right. Yeah.
is struck down for the good of the world.
I'm starting to, listening to you talk about that.
I'm not trying to drop hints. I'm not trying to.
No, generally in my
I'm
life.
still alive. I'm around you probably the second most of anybody.
Sure, that's true.
But I have a high tolerance.
You have a high tolerance for death.
Also, whenever
For
we're
the touch
together,
of death.
I wear this radiation suit.
I have noticed that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought that was a fashion statement.
I
but
mean,
apparently
it works
not.
as both.
It works.
You can see how becoming it is to my figure.
Right. I have noticed more people around town wearing radiation suits.
Yeah.
So I think that it's starting to take off.
Yeah.
I think it's starting to take off. All of the other girls in the cave have their hair down in front of their face.
They're
and they
real
are
sadicos.
and they're all breathing this incredibly raspy breath. It is so unnerving, and such an effective horror scene.
Oh, yeah. This movie blends genres so well.
Oh, absolutely. Again, it never feels like it's not itself. All of these genres feel entirely organic to the piece somehow.
We talk about movies that have these, like Day of the Beast.
Yes,
Just
exactly.
Just these hair point turns where everything is done so masterfully.
Exactly.
You don't even see the string.
That's exactly what this movie is. Absolutely.
The guide girl pulls out a butterfly knife. She flicks it around to be cool because, you know what? Get to the point. If you're like, if you're gonna be like, please die, don't like try to impress her with your butterfly knife skills.
Just like, just kill her.
And she begs Izumi to remember, and also, P.S. If you could, if you got time in the day, please die.
Yes.
But Aki comes through once more like a fucking avenging angel, snaps another neck just because that's the only way she can get hard.
Right, yeah.
She does it so much she has to enjoy it.
I mean, I enjoy watching it
I
happen.
love watching it.
Yeah,
That's the only
definitely.
way I can get hard.
All right.
And once more they run. It's like a Doctor Who episode. So much running.
So much running, so much hand-holding.
Aki demands Izumi say, I'm Mitsuko, until she does turn back into Mitsuko in her school uniform.
She says, we're not going to talk about Izumi. We're not going to talk about Izumi at all.
Aki reveals that her wrists have these Cronenbergian
Jesus.
cables, wires, red and blue, one coming out of each wrist.
Cronenberg is probably a better thing to go with. I went with Barker, with Clive
Okay.
Barker. It felt like
It
felt
gets
like
a little Barker.
It gets a little Barker later.
And she tells Mitsuko to pull them.
Yes.
We've all been in this situation.
This is the most relatable part of the film.
This is.
Yeah.
This is like every day.
Every day.
Every day, I'm outside your window. I'm like, Billy! Billy, pull the word! It's the only way you can open the door. And you're like,
go
I don't
home,
want to
Brad.
open doors. I don't like going outside.
Go home, Brad.
Aki tells her the world they're in is fictional. And someone pulled them in.
Yes.
Only Mitsuko can stop it and get them out.
Yes.
But first, Mitsuko has to destroy Aki. Boo! Destroy yourself, bitch. And that will make an exit when she rips out the cables.
Once she rips out the cables from Aki, will make an exit.
So Mitsuko, being the good friend, unlike you, pulls the cables and they rip. Here's where it gets Barker. They rip up her arms. They rip up her chest. There's like cables extending into her ankles. Like
Yes.
she is fucking pulled apart.
Yeah. They're
And
like
you see a massive
like the
wires
ropes
inside.
the ropes in a marionette, just
Yeah.
like tearing those out.
There's a massive internal wiring, and between her two split halves in the distance, we see a glowing door.
She splits right down the middle,
Yep.
splits right in half, and we see a glowing door between the halves. That is a very Barker. That is probably the Barkeriest moment. And
Bob Barker. By the way, we're talking about Bob Barker.
Right, and I wrote down the effect of Aki being torn apart feels like a Clive Barker kill. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it's great.
There's something that I should mention right here that doesn't really. I don't believe it really applies to the rest of this movie. So I'll just mention it right here. There was in the think piece that I watched on YouTube that talked about Sono's relationship with women in his work. They argued that this scene in particular was meant to be a criticism of the final girl trope in horror movies, where this protagonist character is always the character left alive when the monster comes. There are all these other women who are left killed in their wake. And the argument with the horror fans always have is that the final girl trope is somehow feminist because there's a girl who's alive and she triumphs. There are movies where it's more and there are movies where it's less, but the sort of argument here is that yes, she survives, she triumphs, she doesn't thrive, but she survives and she triumphs. But so many other women have to die, and she has to step on all of them in order to get to the end. And Laurie Strode does survive, but she survives by being like Mitsuko in the beginning. She's the good girl. She's the poet. She's the nerd. All these other girls who actually have fun and have lives and have sex, they all die because how dare they?
And there is a conversation earlier between Taiko, Sir, Aki, and Mitsuko where they're talking about virginity, and I think it's Aki who says we're not sluts like you or something like that.
Yes. And which she says in good fun.
It's all joshing around.
The relationship between those characters is fine, but at the same time, that is a conversation that might have happened in Halloween, Bloody New Year, My Bloody Valentine, any of the movies in the Bloody franchise, and
Sunday, Bloody Sunday.
Yeah, so it's just something interesting. I thought there, not something that I came up with, but I thought it was very interesting. Is the YouTuber Filmed in Ether.
Okay.
Yeah, who I'd never heard from before I watched this video, but I think I'll be following their stuff because their stuff is very interesting.
Do it.
Yeah.
So Mitsuko walks through the door. Mm-hmm. She finds herself in the kitchen of a restaurant, all populated by men.
Yes, for the first time in this movie, men have entered the picture. In fact, there's even a title, I believe, that says The Male World.
She walks through the door into Male World. We see a sign.
Yeah.
And whereas all of the women we've seen in this film are attractive. They're women in a movie.
They're younger women. They're attractive women. They are all skinny as twigs.
Yes.
Yeah.
The men, not so much.
No. There's a much wider variety of body types and stuff. And you might be thinking, how is this different from any movie ever made? And that's a good question to ask. And the movie wants you to ask that question. So, yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
The restaurant workers all look like fucking real people. And outside in the cyberpunk dystopia of Male World, it's a bunch of sleazy dudes and odd costume choices.
Right. One of them has like a gigantic sort of a pseudo mohawk.
One dude is just in a leopard print bikini brief.
That's right. Yep.
Two of these sleazy dudes are looking at a poster that features our three heroines.
Yeah.
The poster says the legendary game Tag is back, now in 3D.
And the poster is almost identical to the actual theatrical poster of the movie.
I'm sure that was intentional.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
What if it wasn't? What if, just a happy accident and Sion Sono was like, that's pretty cool. A not so sleazy looking man approaches her. Mm-hmm. Mitsuko recognizes him but can't recall who he is.
Right.
He tells her that she's in the future and then she passes out.
Yes.
Reasonable response.
Yeah.
I think if you were to find yourself in Male World and someone told you that was the future,
right.
I think you would pass out.
I think I would. I think whenever you wake up in the future, there are three rational responses: passing out, screaming, "I slept too long!" or talking to Nick Fury and then saying, "Oh man, I had a date."
Yeah.
You know, those are the three common responses to people who wake up in the future.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair. Mm-hmm. What would you want to do in Mail World? Like if you got an all expenses paid trip to Mail World.
I think kind of the point of the film is that we'd already live in Mail World.
Okay. Fair. What do you want to do today? Like the world's your oyster.
I can tell you what I don't want to do. I don't want to fight biker bears who have decapitated my dad.
Well, you got to get vengeance. You got to get.
I know.
Avenge me, as Harry Dean Stanton would say in Red Dawn.
I still haven't seen Red Dawn.
You don't need to.
Okay.
Mitsuko sees herself back in the sort of cave-like building from earlier.
The first time when this shows up, she kind of walks out of a black void, and
Yes.
again, fully my brain went back to Twin Peaks: The Return, just like old Agent Cooper walking out of that black void again.
Then she's outside in a snowstorm. She walks in front of a building where several girls are standing in alcoves a few feet above the ground.
Beautiful.
But it's framed so that we do not see anything above the shoulders.
Beautiful imagery.
Next,
Beautiful
she
imagery.
is inside the building, and there are more women just lining the walls. Feels like a tomb. Feels like a temple.
There's like a white tree of Gondor in the background in one shot as she's going into this building. I wrote down, I love this movie so much I want to eat it.
Yeah.
And there's also music in the background that sounds like Pink Floyd. I wrote down that fucking shot where she's standing in front of the white tree while something that sounds like Pink Floyd plays in the background. Everything. This movie is everything. I will not be taking questions at this time.
This is just perfectly shot. It's absolutely beautiful. It's so stunning.
Yeah.
And I just want
God.
to point out something that I think I wanted to say earlier but forgot.
Okay.
This movie does have soft moments, and we talk about it like there's long stretches of them. They're very small.
Really,
but they're
they are.
very effective.
Yeah.
Further in, Mitsuko comes across a bed, which has 3 mattresses, just like there are 3 heroines. Is that something?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Could be.
An old man with long white hair is sat in front of a very old television set and what seems to be a tank, almost like a terrarium, given the greenery that it has a little bit inside, with various women in it, including our 3 heroines, and as we're going to learn, Aki.
Yes. So, we talked about that I love this movie as much as I love Day of the Beast. I love this movie so
Yes.
much. We also talked, when we talked about Day of the Beast, that there are a couple of things in Day of the Beast that we don't like. There are a couple things that bring the movie down a smidge.
Yeah.
This ending for me, there are bits about this ending that I still love, that we'll get to. But if I had to point at a part in the movie where I'm like, that's a weak point, this is the weak point for me. Everything building up to this moment when the old man is there, beautiful. I love everything about the White Tree of Gondor. I love everything about walking through the building with all the women in the alcoves and the walls as if they are property.
Yeah.
Fucking chef's kiss. Beautiful. And then we get to this scene, and the guy, it has the terrarium with the women. He's playing the TV with a big video game controller.
Yeah, he has a big arcade-style control pad on his lap.
He's playing the game tag that was being advertised out there. And he's playing it as the 3 main characters that
Yeah,
we've seen
he
throughout the film.
starts at the school massacre, then I think it goes to Izumi.
And Keiko as well.
But we see
yeah.
it's a video game, or no, then it's a wedding fight. It has a mini map in the corner. There's HP and stamina bars.
Yes.
She's been in a video game. And
Right.
I agree with you. This is not... There is no answer that would be satisfying.
Right. This movie...
Especially in the last 5 minutes of the film.
In terms of the arc of this film, the film reminds me a lot of a movie/play that I have not seen or read, but I know about.
The GOAT.
No, one that I've already mentioned previously in this podcast. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead.
Yes.
Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead. You can correct me because I know that you have seen this.
I have seen it and read it. It has been since high school.
Gotcha. But does have moments where it is explained on some level that the world they're living in is a Shakespeare play, that they are on some level aware of that.
Yeah.
But it's never like a Marvel movie would, like explaining like
No.
this is what's been happening. This is exactly what's going on. There's no WandaVision ending where like they break in and they're like, oh man, turns out it was this bad guy all along. It was and we got to defeat them. This ending feels. It doesn't go far enough that it ruins the movie for me.
Yeah.
Again, I still love this movie, but it goes just far enough. Yeah, she was in a video game. This is the future. All women are dead.
That's what you assume?
He says that. He says,
Oh, does he
you
say?
died. They all died years ago.
I thought he was meant all your friends died years ago, because this is 150 years after she was alive.
He says all your friends died years ago, but this is the male world. There are no women in this world. We've seen that. So he said so I took it to mean that all women died, and they kept samples of their DNA and they grow clones of them.
Okay.
And they have the clones of them in this terrarium, and they use them in this video game or narrative thing that allows them to live out fantasies.
Yeah.
And he's even as before you see that he's playing a video game, there's like clacking noise that made me think he was writing on a typewriter.
Thought it was going to be a Stephen King Dark Tower thing.
I thought that it was. I literally thought this was going to be, and I think it is still meant to represent Sion Sono himself,
Possibly.
as this creepy old pervert who's like making these women do all this crazy shit for his own amusement.
Yeah.
I think this is meant to be Sion Sono taking a gigantic pot shot at himself, being like, "Hey, isn't it fucked up that I get to do this for a living?"
Or, well, let's flesh out the final bits of the plot.
Yeah.
We'll save the climax, but in walks the not so sleazy man we saw before, who was talking to Mitsuko before she passed out.
The nicer looking guy.
He is shirtless. He takes off his pants. He gets into bed, and the old man says that 150 years ago he wanted to hella bang Mitsuko, and now she's going to fulfill that desire with the younger version of himself.
Yes.
And this is the final stage, I guess.
Well, yeah, because he's the artist, he's the writer, and just like Gene Roddenberry wrote Captain Kirk to be the ideal of masculinity that he wanted to be himself, and therefore that's why, despite the fact that Spock was actually the sex symbol that all the women who watched the show liked, Captain Kirk sleeps with everybody because Captain Kirk is Gene Roddenberry's idea of who he himself is.
Yeah.
That's the same thing that this creator of a TV show, as put in the Truman Show.
Yeah.
This guy is creating a scenario where this young guy who's meant to stand in for himself as a younger, hotter version of himself is supposed to have sex with Mitsuko because he had an idea that he would have sex with women when he was a younger man.
Yeah.
And now he's living out these fantasies through his, air quotes, art.
But it also needs to be recognized. Oh, by the way, Mitsuko died in 2034 and is now 150 years later. So she was from the future, even when she was not in the future.
Right. And every time, all of these like little details that they give about like what it is. If he had just been like, you're here, you have to go fuck this guy, and she was like, why? He's like, because I had a dream about it years ago. I would have gotten everything they were trying to say with this scene without them bothering me with all these little sci-fi details.
But it needs to be
that
recognized.
don't need to be said.
It needs to be recognized that, one, the absurdity, the idea that there's a lot going on here.
There's a lot going on.
It's very glib. It's all goes by very fast, but there's a lot going on here. So the idea, one, is that all the girls who have been killed,
yes,
the many, many girls who have been killed in this film, one, do not want to die.
Right.
Even though they are NPCs in a video game.
They're still people.
That's a lot right there. Then you have the ideas of, like, controlling women. And controlling women to fulfill a sexual desire.
To fulfill male fantasies, all of the women's deaths, their pleasures, their pains, all of it has been literally for the fulfillment of the male gaze. Yeah. It is literally for the entertainment and fulfillment of a male audience.
Yes. And presumably society at large plays this game.
Yes.
So you got to recognize that. My problem with this is not all the details. My problem is that it doesn't fully parse. Like, thematically, it's all there. Like, I get it. But, like, how does her surviving all that and coming to male world, now she has to fuck. How does that... Why don't you just take them right out of the Lady Aquarium
Sure.
and have sex with them?
Right.
Like, what... And also, what we're about to get to doesn't make a whole lot of sense either.
I think that what saves the movie for me, ironically, is exactly what you're saying. The fact that there aren't enough... There's still too many details, in my opinion.
Okay.
But there aren't enough details to make this actually make sense.
Okay.
Making sense would be the death of this movie for me.
Okay.
The fact that this movie still doesn't make coherent, logical sense keeps it just enough within the realm of surrealism and absurdism for me that the film ultimately works. At the end of Mulholland Drive, there are things you can take from the movie. There is a concrete story there that you can deduce, and that people have deduced over the years that we've talked about a lot.
Yeah.
But the movie never spells that out for you.
No, it does
never
not.
tells you what it is. For all the faults of a movie that we both love, Mother, there's another situation exactly like this for me, where it's like, man, this dreamlike nightmare reality, I just want to live here. Like, I just,
Yeah.
not all the time, but like for the 2 hours it takes to watch this movie, this is where I want to be. And then you find out that the director had a very concrete vision, and you're like, man, that kind of hurts my enjoyment of this film a little bit, to know that, like, no, you weren't trying to create this dream reality. But I do think that Sion Sono was trying to make a very dreamlike atmosphere. I just think he added a little bit too much of an explanation right here, but it's also just not enough of an explanation that it doesn't ruin the film.
So Mitsuko lies down next to the younger version of the man. She recalls Sir saying that the only something unexpected can change fate.
And she is reminded of this because the old man tells her to surrender to her destiny.
Yes. A drop of blood oozes out of Mitsuko's finger, and a white feather lands on it and turns red. Mitsuko gets on top of the bed guy and screams at him to stop playing with them like toys. She rips open a pillow. Feathers everywhere once again. This is a feathery movie.
Very feathery movie.
It should be called The Birds. Has there ever been a movie called The Birds?
I don't think so.
What about The Burbs?
The Burbs? Oh, man. No,
Okay.
never.
Let's make both. Let's
Okay.
make both, and they're the same movie.
Yeah.
Except in some markets we call it The Birds, and in some markets we call it The Burbs.
Okay, they're both the same movie.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we should get
Just with different... You know how Clue had different endings?
Right.
We're going
right.
to do like something like that,
Right.
but less fun. It's just... but more confusing.
more confusing. Okay. Awesome. Let's see if Tom Hanks is interested.
Sure.
Right.
T. Hanks, thanks. Next, she picks up the old man's cane and drives it through her stomach, and the old man is not pleased about this.
This is the other thing that I am not too pleased about, the ending bit, about not the fact that she kills herself, the fact that this movie is chock full of incredible performances from almost everyone involved. The old man is a glaring...
Yeah, he's not the best.
He's got this very theatrical acting style that is... Because he's not actually played by an old man. He's played by a young man in old man makeup.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of very silly. And also his sort of sci-fi design to him doesn't help. It's very cartoonish.
Yeah.
But whatever.
We flash back to the bus. Mitsuko once again drops her pen. We're in the chapel. Keiko enters with the bottle and approaches the altar. On the bus, Mitsuko drives the pen into her stomach in the chapel.
She drives the bottle into her stomach.
Keiko does the same. Izumi has also killed herself somehow.
Yeah, we don't see that one.
Not clear.
Yeah.
We see Mitsuko lying in a snowfield, and she proclaims that it's over. She gets up and runs off. And I don't know how killing herself breaks the cycle, destroys the game, frees them.
I think it it frees them in the same. It's a very similar, or it's very evocative of the ending of Hedda Gabler.
Okay, I've never read or seen.
Hedda Gabler is not absurdist or surrealist.
I want to point out something about Hedda Gabler.
Okay.
There was a few years back.
Okay.
I was talking with you and your wife Kaylee.
Yes.
About like play recommendations, and you told me Hedda Gabler was about a giant head that ate things.
Did I really?
And I fucking believed you.
Oh no!
So I was like, this sounds amazing. This is like some UNESCO shit. Yeah, bring it on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I mean, it didn't destroy my life, but it is the reason why I drink.
I didn't realize that I had done that to you. That's hilarious. Okay. No, Hedda Gabler is... Hedda Gabler is about a woman named Hedda Gabler. And
She's a turkey.
she's a turkey.
She's a jive turkey.
She's a jive turkey. Spoilers for Hedda Gabler. She is a woman who has come to realize what a patriarchy that she is living in, how absolutely controlled at every level of her life she is by a masculine presence. And she tries, much like Mitsuko is taught to by Shura in this movie, to do things that are unexpected and against the nature of society in order to break free of this system of control. The things that she does are, for instance, she finds a manuscript that's very important to a man in her life and burns it, his life's work, which causes him to kill himself. She thinks. It turns out later that he died by accident. But she's like, he killed himself, how beautiful. But no, he just died by accident. And she's like, oh, that ruins it. And in the end, she believes that she can somehow escape, that she can live free. But in the very end of the story, she is drawn back into the web, and she is essentially going to be forced to marry some guy who's just going to take control of her finances. She's going to lose any kind of independence that she had been able to gain through the story.
Gotcha.
And she goes, and she's like, okay. And she goes into the other room, and she kills herself. And I don't remember the final line word for word, but it's something like, they come in and they're like, but why would she do that? That's just not something that people do. But she's dead. She has, in the end, she has managed to escape from the systems of oppression in the only way that she could, by completely removing herself from them entirely.
I think you might be onto something, especially given the marriage scenes. The idea that the ultimate goal through surviving life is you get to fuck someone who really wants to fuck you.
For a woman, yeah.
And just like being the video game aspect of the control, I think you're onto something. I think that's probably...
I think that's where the movie was going, but that's also why I wanted... It was very important to me to put that trigger warning at the beginning about suicide, because both Hedda Gabler and this, the endings for me feel very... This one even more so, because after she kills herself, we cut to a wide expanse of desert, of sand, and she's lying on her back.
I thought it was snow.
Oh, it's probably snow. You're probably right. But she's lying on her back in the snow. She says, it's over now. She gets up and she wanders off, or she runs off, I should say, because running is a source of joy for her character.
Yeah.
That's a thematic thing. And she runs off
Always the running.
And she runs off to run with her friends and be gay in the world beyond. And the movie moves away from her footprints and is just a white void, and it cuts, and then it
goes into the
credits. So there's an even more sort of hopefulness about suicide at the end. On the one hand, is artistically amazing, incredible, but on the other hand, could if someone was already leaning that way, could push them even further that way.
Possibly, or you could interpret it like even. Like, we're talking about literal suicides, but we could talk about, like, societal suicide. Like,
sure,
pursuing what you want as opposed to what society says you should do could brand you an outcast. Like, it could be a form of suicide.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, so that's where I think the ending is, and that's why, again, as much as the video game shit kind of, like, irks me, it doesn't break the movie for me.
Gotcha.
Because the overall experience of the film and this final ending is so good, and so exactly what exactly Tag. Like, Tag
Yeah.
is such its own thing that, like, my God. I love it.
Hashtag tag.
Hashtag Tag. And once again, art needs to confuse old people.
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful movie.
Is there anything else you'd like to say?
Man, like, even if you were like somebody who again doesn't just listens to us to listen to us fuck around and doesn't watch the movies that we recommend, please goddamn watch this movie. Like, holy shit, like, this movie is so fucking good.
It's so fun. It's well shot. It's, I mean, if you've listened to this, it's nothing is going to surprise you.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's still worth seeing because we can only describe it so well.
Yeah.
So next week, No Not That One Month continues with The Street Fighter.